hand, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Okay.
I probably would use my right hand
To do it?
this.
Okay. Okay, well, let's see how you naturally want to turn it. Okay. One thumb here, one thumb here. Okay, now there's always going to be one empty space. You want the empty space to face you.
Okay.
You're going to count over 3 fibers. This is always 1. 1, 2, 3. Lift that bobbin out.
Okay, so
Fill the space.
I picked number 3, right?
Exactly. And you're going to rotate it clockwise so the empty one faces you
All
again.
right.
Third fiber. 1, 2, 3.
I pick this one. And I
Fill
put
the
it
space.
down here. Okay.
Rotate it so the empty faces you. So you always think empty faces me.
Right, okay.
Count 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And that's it. You are making cord.
There you go. All right.
Empty to you. Third one, exactly. Now, if for some reason you move the fourth one instead of the third one, if you go the opposite direction, it unwinds. Because you're always going in a circle. You're undoing your work. So that's why I said, I'm like, if you are ambidextrous, you have to pick a hand and stick with it, because if you keep switching, you'll unwind your work.
No, but for me,
work all day and you get nothing.
Exactly.
Right?
So you have to pick a hand and stick with it.
Right. And
Exactly.
we start by picking your cords.
Exactly. Pick your cords, and then you're going to fill your bobbins. And to fill your bobbins, they just flip it inside out. Just give them a push.
Oh, fun.
And
Like spoolies.
Exactly, spoolies. Wind your fibers on, or your hair.
Okay.
Snap them shut. You must have a minimum of 7. You can have more than
Okay.
7, because you could have 2 bobbins hanging in a slot, 3 bobbins hanging in a slot, but you cannot have 6.
Right, okay.
Because there should only be one empty space.
Right.
So once you have wound 7 bobbins, what I find it's easiest to do is to just gather them all up kind of tip to tip so that you can tie it in a little knot. You'll take your little knotted bundle of 7 and poke that knot through the hole. You're going to take your binder clip and put it over the knot, and when you start off, the knot will be flush up against here.
Okay.
You'll fill your 7 spaces.
Okay.
Put the empty one towards you, and as you work, this will grow down.
Okay.
You never want to pull it down. When you pull it down, you pull the unwoven fibers underneath the disc, and when you keep going, you'll limit spaces.
So you don't want to tug
You don't want
to
to tug it. Just let the binder clip do the work. As it gets longer, I just move the binder clip up,
So you have
there's
the same
always
drag,
a little tension.
consistent
Exactly.
drag.
If you're worried about tension, what I do is I put my thumb over the hole. I don't press it. I just lay it over the hole. So then every time I move it, when I turn it, I'm getting the same tension as
Right.
you see.
Okay.
Some people find that confusing. That's a little tip that I do if I'm worried about my
You
tension.
sort of probably have to figure out your own rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. Once you get used to
Really-
it, you just
This is really kind of fun. It's
Yeah.
sort of addictive, isn't it? You sort of
Exactly.
wanna keep
And then
doing
once you
it.
get used to it, you'll realize that you're always that's 2.
Okay.
That's
Can't count.
yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. yes.
Exactly. Once you
I have
realize it,
issues.
you'll know that you're always skipping 2.
Okay.
Let me give you a little slack here, so that's
Alright.
easier to work with. And then you don't have to spin it anymore. Once you get used to it, you'll just be able to weave.
And these are just pulled down naturally.
You just give them.
get a
You just
little
give them a
tug.
little tug.
Okay. Huh.
Exactly. Before you put it down for any reason, take your little handy rubber band,
Okay.
and you're going to drape it over the top of the whole thing, and it just tucks the bobbins underneath.
cute.
So if you throw that in your purse and it flips upside down, when you come back, everybody's in the right spot. If you live
That
with
makes
fiber
sense.
fairies, cats, little kids,
Yes,
they can
exactly.
come and explore, and nobody's moved out of the
That's
spot.
really, okay. That's really good because I do have a cat.
Yeah, exactly. So the cat can come and have a little fun.
And chew right through your thread, Lynn.
Right. And we can just pick whatever.
Anything. If it'll
combinations
fit
work.
on the bobbins, and like I said, you get the 2 sets of bobbins, so you have
Right,
the medium
right,
size
right.
and the small. The only difference between the 2 is 1 holds more. Because people will ask me, well, do I have to use? You can have a different size bobbin on with each thing. As you can see here, I have 7 different fibers. You
Right.
can do all the same fibers. You can do 1 fiber and 6 strands of beads, which is what I did here.
That's
If you
beautiful.
do that, make sure, as you can see, you'll have a big fluffy fiber.
Right.
Your fiber has to be substantial. If not, it'll get lost in all those
Yeah,
beads.
right.
And vice versa. If you have all fibers in 1 strand of beads, make sure they're really big beads, because if you don't, you'll never see them because you're making a tube.
And how many strands of beads is there?
This is 6 beads in 1 fiber.
Okay, and this is what we have.
This is a mix. This is 3 and 4. 3 strands of fiber, 4 strands of beads. If you're stringing beads, do not painstakingly make a pretty pattern. You'll never see it. That's what she did here. Hours of work. When she could have just strung some beads. You would never
these are the
know
things you learn as
that
you
she
go
did
along.
3 pink, 2 blue, 1 purple. You'd never see that in all. So just string beads.
Okay.
Our general rule of thumb: whatever you want your finished piece to be, double your length. So there's no way to add on. So decide how long you want it before you start, because once you've gotten going, you'll notice little knots here and there when you try to tie on, especially if you're stringing beads, because you don't want to string beads for 3 days and realize you're this much too short. It's better to have too much and let some go at the end than to be that much too short, and now your necklace is now a bracelet.
Now, is there a suggestion for what sort of thing
To string them on,
these?
you can use whatever you prefer. Beadalon, Soft Flex, Nymo, Fireline,
Okay.
silk bead cord, whatever you want to use. Just make sure that it's nice and sturdy. You don't want to use anything too thin because the thinner it is, with all that, it can't withstand the tension of you braiding it, and it'll snap.
Okay.
So you want something. I like Beadalon or Soft Flex in their finest. I think it's like 0.10 or 0.12
Okay.
or something like that in their finest form because it's flexible. You can also use Nymo. I think it's size D. It's sturdy but very flexible. A
Okay.
simple finishing technique.
Yeah, that would be
Oh
important.
yeah,
What happens
simple
next?
finishing technique. If you want to make jewelry, say, take one end and fold it over. Stitch it across so that you can cut off that knot. On the other, sew on a really pretty button. On the other side, sew the loop to go over the button. You've got an instant closure. You can still put on a pendant. You can still do all that, but you instant closure. If you want to put on a clasp,
Okay.
it's a little more involved. What you're
right.
going to do is you're going to take some glue, Hypo Cement, E6000, fabric glue of your choice, whatever you want to use. Like an inch and a half or so before your knot, you're going to put some glue all the way around. Let it dry, and then when you cut the knot off, it won't unravel.
Okay.
Because, like I said, you just braid it like you braided hair. Once that's dry, take a piece of beading wire. I mean, all of this is in the instructions.
Okay.
About an 8-inch piece, and you're going to slowly do a little wire wrap, one next to the other. You're going to take the tail of that into your cone, or bead,
Okay,
or a
right,
bead,
right.
or
Whatever
crystal,
you-
or whatever,
whatever you're using, yeah.
and make a little loop on the end, and then you can attach any kind of clasp that you like. A lot of people, I say that, and their eyes glaze over because they're
No,
like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know. But if you're teaching it to people,
Right,
the simple
right.
button closure is the
That's
easiest.
the easiest one.
If they like to bead, you can leave the knot there and bead on top of it. Or you can also get some trim from the fabric store, some beaded trim, hot glue it over the knot. Done.
Lots of things.
Yeah, you can just leave it hanging. You can leave the fringe longer and do like a little, close it with a brooch or a shawl pin or something like
The key
that.
features too, they're all like put together.
Exactly,
Now, I know
creativity.
you do some fabrics, and how wide because you can.
These fabric strips were cut 2 inches wide, and I think for this particular bag, they're about 60-inch strips. But again, that's also personal choice whether or not to cut them on the bias or to cut them straight. Most people, I tell them just cut them straight if you don't mind the little raw edge. If you want them very nice and neat and want to go through all that trouble,
Then do it, right, yeah.
more power to you. But it's a lot of work to do all that. You know.
The finished look.
The finished look, yeah, exactly. But it won't do anything with the finished piece. It's just going to give you a raw edge or not a raw edge.
Very cool.